Frank Endicott was a worrier. He worried a lot. He worried about leprosy. Who wouldn't worry about leprosy? And lions. They were such alarmingly violent creatures. He worried about tests, not being properly prepared for them. Black holes. What happened if you got sucked into them? And armadillos, transmitters of leprosy. Frank worried about alligators. They looked sluggish and slow-moving, but in fact, they were not slow-moving at all. Alligators could move very, very quickly when they were motivated to do something. Eat you, for instance. Frank worried about submarines, getting trapped on one. Brown recluse spiders, being bitten by one. Vampire bats, carriers of rabies, and rabies, which could kill you. Also, Frank worried about goats. There was no good reason to worry about goats, but Frank worried about them nonetheless. Their eyes were so unnerving and otherworldly. Frank had so many things that he worried about that he kept a notebook exclusively for his worries. He listed the worries alphabetically. He indexed them and cross-referenced them. He felt that his worries were legitimate, fact-based, and solidly researched, except, perhaps, for the goat worry. But Frank was embarrassed by how many worries he had. Were his worries out of control? Was his worrying excessive? It worried him to think so. Frank had a little sister named Stella, and, he couldn't help it, it worried him to think that Stella would discover his notebook and read the gruesome facts recorded within its pages and become a worrier herself. And so, Frank started hiding the worry notebook under his bed. And that's when the nightmares began. They were terrifying, filled with goat eyes and speedy alligators and vicious lions and all-consuming black holes and also armadillos. Sometimes the dreams were so terrible, being stuck on a submarine with an armadillo, for instance, that Frank woke up screaming, and Stella had to come into his room and kneel by his bed and hold his hand and tell him that everything was going to be fine, that he was safe. Frank appreciated her kindness very much, but he was also somewhat dismayed by it. He was the big brother, after all. He should be comforting her. After several nights of nightmares, Frank took the notebook out from underneath the bed. He moved it downstairs to the hall closet. He put it on the top shelf. The nightmares, alas, continued. Frank decided something had to change, and so one day after school, Frank went over to the Lincoln sisters' house and knocked on the door. Eugenia Lincoln answered. She looked slightly annoyed, but then Eugenia Lincoln always looked slightly annoyed. Frank was used to it. "Yes, Franklin," she said. "Good afternoon, Miss Lincoln," said Frank. "I was wondering if I might use your encyclopedias to do a bit of research." "Certainly," said Eugenia, who approved of research. "I extend you carte blanche." She held the door open wide. "Thank you," said Frank. He went into the Lincoln sisters' living room and stood before the Bingham Lincoln Encyclopedia set. The books had been written by the Lincoln sisters' grandfather, Bingham Lincoln, and they were very old. The entries were dense and comprehensive and featured many colorful and instructive illustrations. Reading one entry naturally led to another entry, and then another volume, and a slowly burgeoning belief that the world was an orderly, reasonable place. A belief that Frank very much wanted to subscribe to. "Make sure you return everything to its rightful place," said Eugenia Lincoln. "Yes, Miss Lincoln," said Frank. Baby Lincoln stuck her head into the living room. She said, "Hello, Franklin. Grandfather Lincoln would be so happy to see how you appreciate his encyclopedias."